Hey, how's it going everyone? It's Ben Falcons Media Corner back again with a brand new video for today. Welcome back to another movie review, aka After I Saw review video for today. For this new aka After I Saw review video for today, this is going to be my review on a brand new release film for 2022, which this movie came out just last Friday around the globe, and I did see this movie on opening day, which I actually went to see this movie on a Friday night with my best friends, and I was planning to review this film just a few days after I saw this movie, but I had a few things on my plate, like with my job, because I was really busy with my job, and I was also getting myself prepared for next week, because for next week in my area in the UK is that it's half term, and there's a lot of big releases that's coming out in towards the end of this month, and I could tell that cinemas in my area is going to be very, very busy. But since I'm off work for today, I feel like I should get this review over and done with. So today's review is going to be my review on the 2022 horror slasher film, and this is the 13th installment of this iconic franchise that was made back in '78, well, created in '78, excuse me, and this is a final film of this franchise, and also being the final film of this trilogy that was made in 2018, which for that trilogy, those films were direct sequels to the original film that was made back in '78. And that is, of course, my review on Halloween Ends. Now, this is the final film of the Halloween franchise, and also being the final film of this trilogy that was made in 2018, which, again, for those films, those were direct sequels to the original Halloween film that was made back in '78 by John Carpenter. And this film was directed once again by David Gordon Green, who made the last two Halloween films, Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. And now he's directed this film. And so in this film, this is set several years after the events of the last Halloween film, which was Halloween Kills. And where we see Laurie Strode is back once again, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, who's now taking care of her granddaughter, Allison. And basically this whole final film is basically the whole final showdown between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. However, it's not really the whole main story itself, because there's another storyline in the film where we follow this young man named Corey, who in the opening scene of the film, something horrible happened to him that kind of changed his whole life forever. And everyone starts to basically treat him differently and all that. Like, they misjudge him and they bully him and all that. And also, there's also a bunch of like series of events that's happening that starts to basically change his whole life forever, when it has something to do with Michael Myers and all that. So that's pretty much the whole plot synopsis I can say for Halloween Ends. Now, we did get a Halloween movie last year, which was of course Halloween Kills, and as you guys may know in my review for that film, I was really disappointed with that film. But I didn't hate the movie or anything. I just found that film pretty much being a mediocre entry to the franchise, because there was some things I did like in that film, but there definitely a lot of problems with that film. And I don't think it's the absolute worst of the franchise since Resurrection, which I still think is arguably the worst of the franchise. But when it came to this final film of this franchise, I was hoping this one could be much improvement over the last film, because again, the last film really disappointed me. And once the trailers did drop by for this film, I was really looking forward to it, because again, I'm a massive fan of this whole franchise. It's my favorite horror slasher series of all time. Next to other horror slasher series I'm a huge fan of, like say Scream and other horror slasher movie series out there. And, you know, it was great to see David Gordon Green coming back in the director's chair to direct the final film of this iconic franchise, as well as seeing Jamie Lee Curtis portraying her iconic character one last time in this iconic franchise, because this is indeed her final portrayal of this iconic character in this iconic franchise. And I didn't even know where I was going to go and see this movie, because I just didn't even know which cinema to go to see this one, because there was two options: seeing this at Odeon or my job, because at the time before this was coming out, a few of my friends asked me if they wanted to see this film with me. I was like, sure, come and see this with me. So that was good enough. And but again, I just didn't even know which cinema to go to see this one. So I decided, but in the end, I decided, why not go and see this on my job for free? So they were like, sure. So we all went to see this on my job for free. We went to see this on opening day on a Friday night, and I did manage to get all of us a free ticket, which I still even have my free ticket here from my collection of tickets that I've purchased. And I'd like to say, if you cinema, thank you so much for getting me and my friends a free ticket for this movie, because we were all really looking forward to this movie. And so, after walking out of this film, was this movie much improvement over the last film? Unfortunately not, guys. This one wasn't was a better improvement over the last film, because this one, unfortunately, I would have to put this one on par with the last film, because this one, I also found this one pretty much being a mediocre entry to this franchise. But obviously not everything in this movie is completely bad or anything, because there were some things I did like in this movie, like the whole concept for this film I thought was pretty interesting and I quite liked. Where it's basically the whole final showdown between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, which I was really excited to see as well as my friends. But for its execution for this film, I was really disappointed with, because the whole concept execution for this film I found really messy and really weak. Because it's mostly due to the storytelling in this film, because I found the storytelling in this movie really messy. Because this film doesn't really focus a whole lot on Laurie Strode or Michael Myers, because it focuses on this other character, which is Corey. In which, after the opening scene of this film, we see how his life completely changed after what he went through. Because after that, once we get to see him back on the screen, people start to basically mistreat him. They often bully him, and they just don't really care for him whatsoever. Well, there's a few people that do kind of care for him, mostly Laurie Strode in this film, where she does feel sympathy for this character. But once a series of events start to occur and they start to take a toll on Corey's life, it makes his life much worse. And once he does encounter Michael Myers and a bunch of murders that's happening, which for the whole plot line for this film, I thought was just unnecessary, and I didn't find it really interesting whatsoever. And even for the character of Corey, I didn't think he was that interesting whatsoever, because this movie shouldn't be about him. It should be about Laurie Strode and Michael Myers and all that, since this is their final appearance in this movie. And there are some scenes for that plot line in this film which I kind of found boring, because it's mostly due to the pacing, whereas there are some pacing issues for the film, because there are some scenes that do kind of drag on, here and there. Despite the fact it's not a slow burn film, it's only an hour and 51 minutes though. And once we get to its conclusion, where it's basically Laurie Strode against Michael Myers, which of course I was excited to see that. But for the way this film played out for that whole conclusion, I was also disappointed with, because I kind of found the whole conclusion for this film really weak. But as for the kills in the film, there was some bloody kills in this film that I thought were passable enough. But there are some other killing moments in this film. Honestly, there are some more ridiculous kills in this film. I would say they were even more ridiculous than the last film, because for the last film, I thought the kills in the last film were ridiculous, but for here, I would say that they're even more ridiculous than ever. I won't say what kind of kills happens in this film, because it will be spoilers for those who haven't seen this film yet. And obviously, I don't want to give anything away for this film, for like what kind of kills happen. And there are some tense moments in the film before it built up to its kills, which honestly I didn't think they were that scary enough. And there are some jump scares in the film I thought were just also not that scary as well. And for those directed moments by David Gordon Green, unfortunately they weren't even that great, because it's a shame, because again, for the 2018 film, he did a great job for combining kills and bloody kills and tense moments. But for kills, the last film he did, and then for this film, I don't know what the hell happened. And this film has a mixture of predictability, and also this film has a mixture of predictability, where there are some unpredictable moments which I didn't even see that coming, which I thought were not too bad. But there are other predictable moments in the film that I knew was I already knew what was going to happen from there. Which that was another issue. As for acting in the film, Jamie Lee Curtis portraying Laurie Strode one last time, she was really good in this movie. And as for everyone else, I thought they all gave pretty solid performances for their characters. But in the end, guys, Halloween Ends. Yeah, unfortunately, this one is also a mediocre entry to the franchise, which is a big shame, because I was hoping this one could be much improvement of the last one, because again, the last one did disappoint me. But again, I didn't hate the film or anything. Again, I just wish this one could be a lot more better. But again, there were some things that I did like in this film, but there are definitely a lot of problems with this one. But if you're excited to see this film, it is playing in cinemas now. But if you don't want to see this in cinemas, for those in the US, it is available to stream on Peacock. But for those in the UK, it is obviously playing in cinemas just for now, and definitely won't be on streaming until a few months' time. But anyway, that's pretty much all to say about Halloween Ends, other than this was also I would say this was also a mediocre entry to the franchise. I'm going to give Halloween Ends 2.5 out of 5. Again, I don't think this is a bad film. I just thought this was just another mediocre entry in the franchise next to Halloween Kills, which for both of these movies, I put them on par together, because there were some things I did like in this movie, but everything else that was surrounding this film, I was just very disappointed with. But after I saw this film, a few of my friends, they seemed to enjoy the film. But for me personally, I just thought this was just a mediocre entry to the franchise. And again, I just wish this one could be a lot more better. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching my AK After a Saw review on Halloween Ends. And let me know what you think of this brand new release. If you just recently checked out this film, if you've already seen this film, did you have a blast with this, or are you very disappointed with this? As always, thank you guys so much for watching. And this has been Fulgut's Media Corner signing off.